12 major cultural groups here in Alaska. They each have their own traditional name, and all of them have the traditional name that means the real human being or the human being or the people. And it's a signal about the real human being, by definition, is someone who is present in the moment and in the heart, and with the understanding that the rest is taken care of. Now, this is something that is very difficult for people in Western society to understand, because we feel like we have to plan everything, and or we do something out of a fear, and we think about we live in the past through guilt, shame, remorse, anger, rage, jealousy, and all these things that are from the past that are living with us today, or we are fearful of something that hasn't happened yet. Every place except the present moment. And so we have got to get our acts together quickly. Indigenous people feel this. Many people who are not indigenous also feel this. I've been in Zoom conferences like this at the invitation of others for the last 3.5, 4 years. And I can tell you that what I see happening is that people are changing, and that we are not alone in this realization that we need to uh, go on a different course than we are now. And whether or not we do is going to be up to us, but we don't have much time. And so it's a question about how serious you are and how courageous you are to be able to go to the heart, your heart, because your heart is going to tell you something that the mind will not understand, and or will try to stop it because the ego wants to live, and the heart doesn't function that way. It functions totally beyond what we understand, that is beyond logic and rationality. And so I do this kind of conference now because there is a real need recognized by all indigenous elders that we need everybody to be together as one. And we're not just talking about, conceptually, we'll just be one. We have got to start acting at it. One last thing I would say is I like to use the kitchen rubber glove. The rubber glove that you have in the kitchen. You blow it up, and these individual fingers think they're human, when in fact they are a single breath. That's the best example I can give about this, that if we do not begin to act in a way that is in harmony with all that is, we are done for as a species. And it's going to happen much quicker than most people realize. Thank you. Shariff?
Yeah, yeah, I want to piggyback on that a bit, if I may. Um, One of the things, it's one thing to talk about all of this in a theoretical way, okay? But this is, I had um, a real world way of looking at this. I live in a four unit apartment building, and the water heater went out. And I'm talking to the managers, and I'm talking to the my fellow tenants, and we're doing text messages and emails all over the place, and we're all, you know, freaking out because we don't have hot water. Got plenty of water, got plenty of heat in the place, got electricity, got it, but we don't have hot water. And so it gave me an opportunity to stand back and see how um, pervasive this society is. It gives me an opportunity to stand back and see um, how caught I am in the web of a society that says we'll supply all of your needs. You know, you want food, you just go to the store. You want hot water, you just turn on the tap. You and we're going to take care of you better than you can ever take care of yourself. We don't have to have all those old ways where people were growing their own food. Like, wow, that's so much trouble. If I grow my own food, I don't have time to watch TV. If I, um, walk to walk where I'm going, then I'll take too much time, and I got to save time, and so I've got to drive everywhere. And all these things are amazingly convenient, and I can tell you because when one of them gets shut off, what do you do? I mean, I was contacting my managers and you got to do something, etc. But the reality is, if we turn down and turn off a lot of these things, we are going to have a different approach, a different way of looking at our reality. Um, Remember, one of the things that's been most valuable in this series is that Ilarion and I come to the same reality from vastly different upbringings and experiences. And seeing this, I am like most of us. I never lived a native life. I've never lived a natural life. I've never lived a life where um, my time was told by the sun and the moon and the stars, where my food for tomorrow is alive today, out in a field, or the food is running down the path and I've got to catch it. I've never had a relationship to the things that are important, and I've had deep, deep relationships with things that are completely unimportant and trivial. And one of the things that our mother, in her wisdom, is about to do is shake up that reality. Now, this is part of a birthing process. How we see the birthing process is our choice. There are people who talk about the birthing process, being born as a human being, as being traumatic. You squeeze through this suffocating dark tunnel, and you are being traumatized by this passage through this dark tunnel. And that's the way that breakers would tend to see it, because we're thinking about it, number one, and thinking about it from our perspective as adults. How do you like to be squeezing through a dark tunnel? It is a necessary part of the birthing process. It helps you to be born, and to be born as a true human being. And if you don't have that as an experience, you suffer. I had a friend who had a caterpillar turn into a chrysalis outside of her window. And she could watch every day as this being turned from being a land being to a flying being. Complete change of beinghood. And she said she could see it was a monarch butterfly. You can see the markings on the inside of the chrysalis. But it was taking, from her perspective, too long to come out of the chrysalis. She wanted to see this thing emerge. So, out of her compassion and out of her caring for the birth of this butterfly, she got a little X-Acto knife and slit open the chrysalis. And out came the butterfly. And the butterfly is there, and it sits for a while so its wings will straighten and dry. But as it's sitting there, she's seeing that the wings are too small. She's also seeing that the butterfly's body is bigger than a usual butterfly body. This butterfly will never get off the ground. And she said that it just she had it in her house, and it would flap its wings and go nowhere, and it would kind of buzz around. And she realized she made a mistake. And she's trying to get food to the butterfly. Well, butterflies don't eat. It walked around her desk and buzzed across her desk and eventually died. And that's because she's seeing through her breaker eyes, her breaker consciousness, at a situation that is not a breaker situation. And if you want to find out why I'm talking about breakers and keepers and things like that, it's in my book called Creating a World That Works for All. We can't look, and as Ilarion would say, we can't look with the eyes of our head. We can't look with the eyes of the society that thinks that it lives on top of the earth. We have to be able to look from the point of view of what is happening in our hearts, and to be able to listen to all of the hearts that are around us. To put ourselves in the spot where the only conversation going on inside of us is an ego conversation. It's that we should be able to hear all the other conversations going on. And if this woman's heart was open like that, as she walks up to the butterfly and says, let me help, I want to help you. And I'm going to help you by slitting this open. The other beings in her heart would stop her and say, wait a minute, maybe you should just be patient. Put the knife down. Back away from the knife. And And that would make, not, by opening ourselves to that process, by asking the questions, by making the assumption you don't have the answer, especially when there are other people in the world who may have been dealing with this situation for a very, very long time. So as I wrap up, Mark, I'm going to get to your question in a second. Um, so, um, so our challenge is, can I slow down? Can I um, wait for the leadership of what I call the holonic mind, the mind of all of these beings together? Can I can I put a leash and a muzzle on my ego? Okay. Um, take it out, take a short leash. Okay, take it out for a walk once in a while, but make sure that this is not just like roaming free to do whatever it wants to do. Um, okay, let me bring Mark in here. And as I'm doing that, Mark, you may want to unmute yourself. And what's going on for you?
Yeah, hi everybody. Glad you're all here and part of this conversation. I've been looking forward to this. Um, this is for both you, Sharif, and Ilarion. What I'm hearing is when we talk about um, act from the heart, get quiet, listen from the heart. I'm hearing that another way of saying it might be is slow down and become more conscious, awake, and aware of what's actually going on externally and internally, so you can make choices and decisions that are not coming from the ego. But Sharif, you and I had some exchange just today and yesterday about I feel like everybody needs to do that level of individual reflection to expand and evolve our personal consciousness so we can tap into that greater heart unified field, something like that. But I feel like we have to do the individual work of doing consciousness work so we can all kind of be on a similar or same vibrational level to be able to co-create then the new thing that we don't even know what it is yet. And I say that because as you were talking about, we're all going to be growing our own food and things of that nature. Sometimes when I think about it, and I stop and I pause long enough, sometimes I think we may not even be eating food as we know it. We may be evolving into something different. We may be not growing, all of us growing our own food, but a certain number of people who really love to grow food, and that's what their gift is. And others are going to be doing other parts or something like that. So I feel like we all have to do our individual process of evolving our consciousness so that we can get to the whole line. That's my thought. And you
Yeah,
Number
disagreed.
one,
It sounded like you disagreed with that when I put it out on my yeah. Okay. So I'm all ears.
the great part about Zoom is that you can see that, yes, I disagreed with you. In fact, what
Hmm.
I'm going to do is call on Ilarion to do the first level of response on that, because I would like to hear, his take on it, number one. But number two, I also want to give you more of an answer than I did before. So let's hear from Ilarion first, and then you can turn it back over to me, and I can respond.
Yeah, well, Mark, I totally agree with you. uh, I think that, whatever analogy you have about the heart or consciousness, is talking about something that is existential, that is connected to all that is divine and connected to everything else. And it certainly is a consciousness. The elders are saying that we need to change our consciousness now. And that is exactly right. That, when we talk about that, they say the most unselfish thing that you can do right now is to heal yourself. And that's the first thing that is needed, is to work at that. And we don't have much time, so we got an accelerated time frame that we've got to do this at. And for those who are inclined to do this, it's going to require a lot of discipline and a lot of courage, especially to change your consciousness. I mean, what does that mean? We don't know. You just have trust. My people, we come from people who don't plan anything, and they are not fearful of anything. They know that we have been given everything that we need to figure it out. And I met Don Alejandro a long time ago. He was the keeper of the day calendar for the Mayans at that time. And he said, the people who are going to negotiate this time the best are going to be people of the fire, which means people of the heart. And it means people who have changed their consciousness, that we're so focused on this reality when this reality is not even real. And everything that is being proposed in state-of-the-art thinking, state-of-the-art technologies is nothing but the old regurgitated as the new. So I'll give you one example. Hybrid fuel. When the U.S. decided to go to hybrid fuel crops, i.e. corn, many of the world's farmers converted from food crops to fuel crops. And as a result of that, that increased the cost of food around the world and increased starvation. Is that a logical thing to do? Well, I would say I would argue not. But anyway, I feel like you're right on, Mark.
Okay, so that means I'm going to have to dump both of you then. I got the button right here. I,
I'm still on. I'm still unmuted,
all
Sharif.
right, no,
So.
yeah, no, listen, he's about to disappear. Okay, no, I agree with both of us, with both of you. I'm going to share with you how I agree, and then I'm going to share with you why I was saying I disagree. If you can work with me that long, okay? Um, and so that I'm not making this up as I go along. I do make stuff up as I go along. I'm reading straight out of Creating a World That Works for All. I can, and this is in chapter 7, the internal revolution, feeding your internal hunger. For menders, and that's us folks, we are not keepers. We were not raised as indigenous people. I don't have that experience to draw on, but I know that the values of the keepers, the values of indigenous people, should be our primary motivation for our society. So for menders, there's a dual purpose in our activism: to transform ourselves and to transform our world. Either one by itself is not enough. I can work on myself by attending a continual round of self-help workshops and seminars. This is egocentric, self-indulgent, and an example of New Age breaker thinking. Working for others without clarifying the limitations and boundaries of my heart can also be egocentric and self-indulgent. And in the next section, I talk about activism as a spiritual discipline. Being a mender, an activist for an inclusive society, is a spiritual discipline. We practice a different kind of spirituality, the spirituality of turbulent times. Success doesn't mean I've saved an endangered species or cleaned up a toxic waste dump or fed hungry children. Success means awakening in myself a spirit that can help make a better life for others. Success means that I have acted in the world as though I were a part of it, not apart from it. Success means becoming conscious of and faithful to my values and to my soul. Now, the place where, so I think that if you hear that, you hear me saying, we've got to be living in our hearts. And that's what I think an uber theme of all the three sessions that we've done is saying. I've got to awaken my heart. But as I have been self-indulgent for roughly 73 years, okay, I need a different practice so I can learn to hear something else. And I'll give you a very graphic example of what I'm talking about. I was in a gathering, this is a couple of decades ago. I was in a gathering down in the Bay Area that was talking about higher consciousness. And in the gathering, at the end of one of the sessions, people were arm in arm with each other, and they were rocking back and forth, and they were singing love, 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 and they were all into it. And then it was lunchtime. And so the group, about 300 people or so, left the session, and they were walking to the lunch area. And there was a guy, one of the waiters, a small Hispanic guy, who was standing in front of them, had his hands up, and he was saying, "We're not ready yet. We need another 5 minutes or so to get ready." And one of the leaders of the folks that were singing love, love, love was talking to someone else, walked right into this guy, knocked him down to the ground, and kept walking. Okay. And this guy would tell you that he's working on his consciousness. This guy would tell you that, yes, we all need to be working from our hearts, and we were just doing it by doing love, love, love. But you've got to be able to do it right now. And I'm telling you, that's a lot harder than sitting in a room talking about the evolution of your consciousness. So I'm doing a meditation group, and in the meditation group, I posed an exercise for all of us, including me. And the exercise was at the end of our meditation, we say, may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. And we also say, may you be well. And we try to make eye contact with another person. May you be well, may you be secure, may you be happy. So the exercise was for 1 hour, you're going to walk around, and every human being you see, you're going to say that to them. Not necessarily out loud, not necessarily even making eye contact. Because, in urban situations, sometimes eye contact is not a good thing to do. But you're going to aim this energy at them from your heart. You're going to hit them with your spear of love. And that's going to be translated to, I want you to be well. I want you to be secure. I want you to be happy. The results were interesting. Now, I'm not going to talk about other people's results. I'm going to talk about my results. I didn't do very well with that. It showed me how the difference between theory and reality, the difference between wanting something, believing something, actually being dedicated to it, to something, and then actually doing it. I believe in going to the gym 5 days a week. I believe in it. Do I get there 5 days a week? No. So that gap between how I want to live my life and how we live our life is what we should be exploring. So when I got your outline of how you want to proceed with your group, and I'm hoping it's going to be our group. When I got that, I was thinking about how do we get out of talking about myself as a personality? How do I get out of talking about where I am and what I've been doing, etc., and get that heart gut lesson of you're going to be doing this a particular way. How do you actually do that? And seeing where I'm going to fall, where I'm falling short, and then seeing how I'm going to pick things up. The guy that knocked the waiter down never saw it. He didn't get it, and we need to be getting that, I think, more and more. Okay, so either one of you can start in on me, or we can all agree that we are agreeing with each other, or whatever we want to do here. So does that respond to what you were saying
Yes,
anymore?
and the helpful part of it, I think, is to distinguish, to be able to distinguish what does it mean to actually live from your heart or live a conscious life where you are intentionally evolving as compared to personal growth, therapy, life coaching, something like that, where you're trying to, you know, do incremental steps towards some progression or something like that. So I think it requires a clarification that it is action, but I think it's also a clarification that it involves unlearning rather than learning. If I can see what is actually happening in my life, in my mind, I have those moments too where I pause and I'm just like, oh man, there that is again, you know? What I try to do in those moments is to be, as Ilarion said, in the present moment so I can see exactly what is going on, so I can make an intentional, conscious choice and decision to not do that thing. So it's different than let's put together a social justice movement or something like that. It's like, let me see what's actually going on and stop the thing that I'm used to doing out of my conditioning, out of my habitual way of being, out of my blind spots. And I still say we want to do that personal work of becoming aware and doing the unlearning back to what is already there, which is everything that we need. Nothing is missing, nothing is lacking. That's my sense.
Um, Number one, good sense. Number two, if we go any further, we won't need to talk tomorrow morning. Number three, um, thank you. And I don't know if anyone else is going to type anything into the chat box in terms of agreeing or disagreeing, um, and kind of seeing where we go with that. Um, but anyway, thank you for that. Um, Ilarion, do you have anything you would like to add to that, or do you have a question that you want to um, put to the group?
Well, I agree with Mark, and I'm sure you do too, Sharif, about being present in the moment and aware of what's going on. And that's what I'm talking about. When you're present in the moment, you're not in your mind, you're in your heart, whether or not you like it or not. When you're present in the moment, we created time uh, when we left our hearts and we became wary of things that are happening around the world and develop all of our paranoias as a result of that, that, we, uh, when we operate as human beings, what it means to be present in the moment. Uh, when you're present in the moment, you're given opportunities to change that consciousness that we're talking about. So, for example, I was the head of my people in St. Paul Island in the Turbulent in Alaska when we were holding a dance, a traditional a dance, modern dance, and I went down to the dance hall, and it was dark out, and there were 20 men in a circle with a guy in the middle who was holding out a knife. Uh, 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 and he was trying to kill himself, and he told the guy, "If you come near me, I will kill you." And so that's the scene I walked into when that happened, and I instantly got present in the moment and in my heart. And I felt like the men need to leave right away. And so they obeyed me out of respect, I guess. Uh, but they agreed to leave and they left, all of them. It was just this guy and me. And I knew this guy since he was a child. And uh, he said, "Don't come near me, I will kill you." And I just made eye contact with him, feeling the love in my heart, and maintained that eye contact as I talked with him. I said, I know you don't want to do this, Butcher Boy. That was his name, Butcher Boy. I know you don't want to do this. As I did that, I walked closer and closer to him until the knife was directly in my chest. And I didn't, because I was present in the moment, I didn't feel any fear. I just felt love for him. And, you know, I said, I know you don't want to do this with boy, and I know it's been hard for you. You've been feeling very alone, but I'm here now. And he dropped his knife and dropped to the ground in a fetal position, crying, sobbing. And all I could do was hug him. And I said, I know it hurts. I know it hurts. Meet him where he's at. And, he afterwards became one of the most loving souls on St. Paul Island, where he would help elders get their traditional foods. And he always became a contributing member of the community, whereas before he was just totally in himself. That's the power of love, which goes beyond what we do and think mentally. And so I know that this way works, being present in the moment and in the heart. And to take Mark's suggestion, consciousness, your consciousness and your awareness. So I would be interested in hearing other people and their perspectives on this or whatever else they have in mind.
Yes, but let me, if I may, follow up on that, on what you just said. Um, and this will give other folks a chance to get your digital hand up or get your meat hand up or get something in the chat box that says, yeah, I'd like to say something, or I'd like to ask something. And when you were talking about the guy in with the in the circle threatening himself and threatening others, it reminded me of a situation of when I was at Clark University up in Massachusetts, freshman year actually, and I had a machete in my room, and kept it over my bed, and I used it to, slice bologna. I used it to sharpen pencils and things like that. And from time to time, people would come in my room and they would say, um, "Can I borrow your machete for something?" And I said, "Sure." And they would take it and they'd slice their bologna or spread their mustard or whatever they're going to do. Um, So one of my fellow students came in and said, "Can I borrow your machete?" I said, "Yeah." And um, his name was Ibrahim, and he left. And about 2 minutes later, um, uh, someone runs into my room and says, "Ibrahim is killing Steve with your machete." And um, I figured I better go down and see about this. And so I run downstairs and there's a standoff. Ibrahim's got my machete and has been slicing at Steve. No serious blows, but his shirt was in rags and he had cuts on his chest. Steve had a high-powered rifle and it was loaded and pointed at Ibrahim. And I saw this, and then I walked right between the two of them. So the machete is aimed at me, and the gun is aimed at me. And I said, "You're not going to do this." I said, Steve is going to give me the rifle first, and then Ibrahim's going to give me the machete back, and then we're going to sit down and talk about this. And they did. And while we were talking, about 15 minutes into it, I got scared. I mean, I had the gun and I had the I had the machete. By this time, the campus cops had come. Yeah, everybody was cooled down, etc. But it's like, okay, and this is the time to get scared. It's not when you need it, not in that present moment. The one thing I knew when I walked in was that neither one of them wanted that situation to escalate. Neither one of them wanted that to go further. And I was able just to calm them down and get them to a point where a conversation could actually take place. And those times when I respond well are those times I don't have the time to get my head in gear. And the response is very, let's call it organic. Those times when I'm thinking about what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Whatever I'm doing, it's not quite the right thing. It's not quite the moment that is necessary at that moment. Now, I am having an issue now. This issue is real simple. There are 20 people on this call. I'm going to see if I can, I generally can't see how many people are on the Zoom call, which is different. That's over there. But with 20 people, there's no questions, there's no comments, there's no thoughts, there's no feelings, there's no anything's going on. This is really interesting. So
Look in the chat. There's something in the chat.
I'm not seeing. Oh, thank you. Angela, where are you? Okay, I'm going to spotlight you, but I can't see where you are. Oh, there you go. So let me spotlight you. Let me bring you forward here. You should be so happy you're being spotlighted now. So,
well, I just wanted to share a story that a friend of mine told me this week about how she was hitchhiking when she was 19 and got picked up by someone who then attempted to rape her, and he was busy yanking her clothes off, and they had been talking before, and she said, she just reached in her soul and she said, "Why are you doing this?" And he said, "Well, you tell me, you're the psychologist, you're the psychology student." And her response was, she said, "I think you just want love." And she hugged him. And it so discombobulated him that he let her go. He stopped what he was doing. He let her go. She got her clothes back up, and he let her go, So I just thought, what an amazing response to have in a moment like that, But she gave him love, and it just stopped everything, And
yes, indeed.
and she shared that with me just sort of out of the blue, so she wasn't even terribly traumatized by it, down the road at least, So
Yeah, there are lots of examples I could do to support what you just said. When the response is anger or fear or fighting back or her pulling a gun and blowing this guy away, a lot of those responses as a society say, oh yes, well, I would understand somebody's raping me, I'm gonna shoot him and blow him away. Well, yeah, that's not what that person needs. The rape isn't what the person needs. The stealing the money isn't what the person needs. The designing a business that closes down all the other businesses isn't what the person needs. Building the largest yacht in the world, the multi-billion-dollar yacht, is not what the person needs. Becoming president of the United States again isn't what the person needs. What the person needs is they want to be well. They want to be secure. And they want to be happy. And they don't know how to do it. They're doing it the way that society is telling them to do it, which is, make more money and have more stuff and have people look up to you, or oppress people and putting them down and you're looking over them, etc. And that never, ever, ever feeds your heart. We don't know how to feed our hearts in this society. We have a condition that I talk about in Creating a World That Works for All called spiritual starvation. We are spiritually starved, and it's like the people who weigh 500 pounds and they're constantly putting substances in their mouth that can't feed them. They can't absorb it. And so I was born with a heart, I shouldn't say that. I was born with a heart that was like everybody else's heart. But it got trained in Camden, New Jersey, how not to respond to love, how not to respond to caring, not to respond to compassion. I called all that stuff weak, and who wants to be weak? I learned. It took some learning. It took seeing the birth of my first daughter. I was already well on the way to making this shift, and that was the thing that just shifted everything. And I had to say to myself, I'm not going to raise her or them now the way I was raised. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have to extend myself with very little training and almost no support from that community. I had to move out of that community and move into a whole other way of looking at the world. So Angela, thank you for that. I'm going to invite Ilarion to come back in and see if he wants to respond to that at all.
I would like to, we're in a period of time when we're supposed to ask questions, or people are supposed to ask questions or comments or whatever is on their hearts. I would like to hear them.
Yeah. And let me see if I can do this. I think this means that most of us can see each other. Christine, I don't know if you were batting at a fly or whether you were actually waving your meat hand around. Oh yeah, that's right. Wave it big now. Let's get you into center square here. Ta-da-ta-da. Um, and so what's on your mind? And I'm
Well,
sorry, what's on your heart?
I do my morning practices and then I get in my car and I'm in a rush and someone's driving slow. I just, all these little things that come up in the day. If I'm not in that practice mode all the time, it doesn't take much. Or, at work today, I was working and then I got a call from a customer, that's upset. And I wasn't even thinking about my practice. And so, my response was okay, but it wasn't my best either. So it's just these little things that I know are our thoughts, our forms, and they can inform, you know, out in the world and what's reflected back to us and our projections and all these things that to consider how to be, I guess, consistently aware and mindful and in our hearts. I guess I'm looking for thoughts as to maintain that or how to keep that present moment in throughout the whole day, I guess. If that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And most people, I think, are struggling with that and trying to figure out how do you stay in the present moment? What does it mean to be in the present moment anyway? And what it means to me and the way that I have lived it is that there's not a single thought that comes through my head. Not a single thought. I can do this for hours. I learned that when I was 6 years old because I was raised in a traditional way. And this is what people have to be able to achieve, not having that kind of traditional upbringing. And so I lecture at places like Columbia University, for example, as a visiting scholar. And I work with 100 PhD candidates. And the one thing that we try to do is help them to figure out how to be present in the moment. And, I at one time asked one of my elders, what is this thing about culture anyway? What is it? And that the elder said, well, the professor for our culture is a 2-year-old child. And because they understand that we are energy beings and we have mental, physical, and spiritual energies. And it's a vibration that goes on. And the 2-year-old child automatically just expresses whatever they're feeling in the moment. They're angry and they engage their entire bodies, not just, their face or their voice. They do everything, including their face and voice. And then after 2 minutes of doing that, they're done with it. I mean, I saw two young children. They were playing with each other, and then all of a sudden somebody did something, and the other one got mad, and so he did that. And after 2 minutes, they were playing together again. And what is that? Uh, it's not thinking. They're not thinking. They are feeling. And you watch a 2-year-old child, you will begin to see how they do that. So one of the things I give the doctoral students in Columbia is, how many of you used to jump on a bed up and down when you were a little kid? And most of the people would say they raised their hand. How many of you did gibberish, when you were young? And everybody would raise their hand. And, how many of you like to laugh when you were a little kid? And so that kind of thing, they began to see that they had left those things when they became adults. And if you keep that child alive, that that wonder and awe and joy that you have as a child into adulthood, you have it already halfway there. And it's the elders, my elders, they're worldwide. The true elders are people who maintain the wonder and excitement of the young person and wisdom of the elders combined. And then when you're present in the moment, that's the way to get to it. And the heart never guides, in my experience, it never guides you wrong. It always guides you impeccably right. It has love, it has compassion, it has understanding, it has all these things that we are trying to get to, and it's very simple, at least to indigenous people. It is very simple, but it's very hard because of all the traumas that we face as human beings that make it very difficult to go to our hearts anymore. But what the elders are saying is that you got to be able to find a way to let all of those illusions go, all the pain go. It's not there anymore. It's a memory, and that memory is affecting you. You have to let it go to be a real human being, to be present in the moment and in the heart.
One of the great things about all this, about Zoom, is that I can agree, and I don't have to say anything. It's like just watch the head. A couple of comments, and then Liza's asking you, Ilarion, a question, and I'm going to invite her to come forward to ask it. But I've got a couple of responses, Christine, for you. I think one of the things that's really, really important, especially for people like me who spent an amazing amount of time working on their heads. I've got a couple of degrees in headology, okay? And so getting that voice to die down and, like I said, put a leash on it is really a challenge. One of the ways that I can meet that challenge is by letting someone take the lead who can show me where I am lacking. So that would mean letting someone take the lead that where I am lacking in my heart connections. I've been consciously building these heart connections. And that means listening to keepers, listening to the indigenous people. That doesn't mean they're in the room and I'm waiting for them to play their drums and, it's like, no, it's like listening. One of the things I've noticed around the world as I've encountered indigenous people is they repeat themselves. They repeat themselves several times. They'll tell me the same story several times. And I'm like, so the head part saying, yeah, I heard it already, and I'm ready to go on, and it's like, if you really heard it, you wouldn't be hearing it again. So really listen to it. I'm walking down the street with a friend of mine, and he's talking about XYZ, and it's a beautiful evening, and this amazing full moon is rising in the sky. So as he's talking, I just point and I say, the moon, and he keeps talking, and after a few more steps, I said, the moon is rising. And he doesn't look at the moon, he looks at me and he says, I've seen the moon before. And I realized, number one, he's never seen the moon. He's never seen it. He sees this light up in the sky, and he compares it with all of these little maps and pictures and images in his head. He says, oh, yep, that's the moon. And then he dismisses it. He never saw that moon. He never had that moon act on him. And that's true with the moon. It's also true with people. It's true with almost everything. So the client that you had that you were less than your best with, that person had a gift for you, that person had a message for you, and you didn't get it because you were into expecting what they were going to say and dealing with that, as opposed to where's the gift. Okay. And there's a lot of stories around that, but I'm not going to tell them right now. Because, okay, we've got a couple of things going here. On the one hand, Liza's asked a question, and I want to get to her here. But I also recognize that we may be drifting into going into overtime, because there's another comment coming up that we may need to get to, and some other things may come up. So what we're going to do is, Liza, you're going to ask your question, I think, if I can figure out where you are. If you don't want to, just shake your head, and I'll read the question for you. But if you are up for it, and I didn't see your head shake, so we're now putting you in the box here. But after this response, I need to let people go if they've got to go, but I also will, I'm going to hang in here another 10, 15 minutes or so to see if there are any other questions, and to let those who have to go. So Liza, here you are, and you are unmuted, and because this is a question for Ilarion, I'm going to
it's good to see you, Shariff, and elder brother Ilarion. It's a privilege to be in conversation with you. I've heard you speak a number of times, and I'm always deeply moved and in deep agreement, soul agreement with what you share. Because tonight was titled Taking Action, Healing Self, Society, and Planet, I wonder if there are specific practices that the elders are calling for us to engage to support the the spiritual works that so many are doing. I know you've spoken about importance of living in and from the heart. I come to the monthly new moon gatherings that the folks out of Hawaii host, and the call from our elder brothers in Colombia to join with them in their intentions around elevating the consciousness on the planet and loving and working with the sacred energies of life. I have a couple of groups, small groups that I also am part of, but I would love to hear anything that you can share from the wisdom you've been told directly or through the elder circle that might allow those of us who are inclined to tap in spiritually and support that work. Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you for your kind words. Yeah, there's many different kinds of actions that we can take as individuals. The first thing that the elders say is that there are no more singular gurus.
Mhm.
They're all gurus now. And that means you can ask your heart what it is that you ought to do, and it will tell you what you must do yourself. And it's going to be totally different from what is telling somebody else. But, the heart is so incredible. For me, that's where the magic is. That when I'm in the heart and present in the moment, everything is fine, number one. Number two, whatever it is that I am to do, I am always given that guidance. And that's an incredible thing to always have that kind of guidance. And I would wish it on everyone uh, in the world. And so anyway, what the elders are saying that the most, besides being healing yourself, in terms of actions that you can take during this time that would be very meaningful, would be, and it doesn't have to do with the size of the population that does this, or you can be a single individual that would do it, but it would still be valuable in terms of what we need to do now to put things in so that we're in harmony with all that is. And that is to join them, because the native people of Colombia, they're inviting everybody to be part of this process to create energetic vibrational band around Mother Earth that is needed now, because we're receiving the opposite band, which is the thing that creates all the things that are bad right now, or what people would consider bad. That we need this vibrational field of love, of something that changes one's consciousness, so that people can choose to go to that, or they would continue to be part of what they're involved in now. But it will be those people that choose to be part of this thing that is bigger than us, but still us, that is going to help everyone. Because we're coming into a time where Mother Earth, she's not wanting to punish us. She is wanting to help us. And one of the ways that she's doing it is she's starting up these earthquakes and fires and floods and tsunamis and all the droughts, and they're coming closer and closer to human habitation and affecting more and more people. Now, very soon, she's telling us she is going to ramp up her powers considerably. And that if you're fearful of what is going to happen, then you will be part of that consciousness that we are trying to help people change. That the way to get rid or to not be fearful is to go to your heart and strictly in your heart, not your mind. The mind will do all kinds of things, including perpetuating fear. Your heart will tell you that you have nothing to fear. I don't care what the situation is. When you're in your heart and present in the moment, you don't fear anything. And I'm telling you this from my own personal experience. And the sages have always been saying this all the time in the world. We need to change our consciousness now. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just share, if I may, I've been studying with a teacher in Ghana for some 25 years, and they are doing a very similar practice around encircling the earth with the energies of oneness and love and awakening. So it's everywhere. And I'm very grateful to have tapped into what's happening in your part of the universe as well. Thank you.
Yeah, this idea is not something that they created themselves. This is something that they received that they need to do. And so we're getting it all over the world now. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, if I can, your question wasn't aimed at me, but I'm aiming it. And I want to piggyback on what Ilarion was saying about constructing a conversation with your heart. Now, there are lots and lots of folks who have constructed a conversation with their ego, and they've given their ego a whole bunch of spiritual language, spiritual sounding language. And who was it? And Liza, I know you know who the guy that wrote Spiritual Materialism. Yeah, I'm having my senior moment. So yeah, so that was a long time ago. But having a technique where, yes, Chung Young Trungpa, thank you, Anne. I knew we could pull that out of somewhere. We can develop techniques to bypass that ego stuff. Okay. I notice when Angela and I are in this meditation together, she will hold a crystal on a pendulum. And this is her way of getting out of words and getting into the truth of the matter. I have then there it is. I have a technique where I can ask simply yes or no questions. Should I do this or should I do that? Should I go here? Should I go there? And getting out of the words helps me to get closer into the heart stuff. So, so there are some techniques that can help you do that, and we can, and I'm sure you know a lot of them. And so, I think we need to start doing these with groups, though. When I do this in my, it's kind of in my meditation room, it just doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so let's do this because we're over time. let me share a couple of things with you, and then we're going to search for a last question here. First of all, I want to send you the button to do donations if you feel moved to do that. Y'all have been very generous, and I would hope you would continue your generosity. It's needed, it's wanted, it's loved. The second thing is we've designed, I'm messing it up right now, but we have designed a, why can't I copy it? We've designed a survey to for you to take. It's only like 10 questions or so. It's very lightweight. It's not not really heavy. And we'd appreciate it if you could give that to us so we could figure out where we're going and how we're going to get there. I am, for those of you who are registered for this, you'll also get another copy of the survey. For those of you who are on the YouTube live stream, and if you're on my YouTube channel, you'll also get a copy of it that way too. And if you don't get a copy of it any kind of way, you should contact me and I'll get it to you. There's a termination date, 14th of December, so please respond as soon as you can. Brenda said, thank you, beloved ones, have to transit out of the call. Appreciate the offerings and sharings. She also said, wonder, joy, awe, keep the child alive. True elders are those who maintain wonder and excitement of a young person and combine it with the wisdom of an older person. If there are other questions or comments, and let me change this view so I can see all of you, or most of you. If there are other comments, wave the meat hand around, do the digital hand. I'm not seeing either one, so I think that this may mean we are done for the night. Ilarion, do you have any last words you want to bring out here? Hang on for a second and I will do that.
Yeah, I don't have anything in particular. I really am thankful for you having the patience and to listen to us and to participate to some degree. And so, you know, it's an honor because you are all sacred beings. And it's an honor to be in front of and with sacred beings. And we're going to realize that more and more as we go on through time here. And in very short order, we're going to realize that we are all sacred beings. Thank you very much.
And thank you, and thank all of you. We're going to end the way we've ended each of these with what I call the inclusivity prayer or inclusivity mantra. And it's based on a Buddhist prayer. The first part of it is, may I be well, may I be secure, may I be happy. Second part of it is, may you be well, may you be secure, may you be happy. Third part is, may we be well. By we, I'm thinking about the people on this call right now who are forming the seed of something. May we be well, may we be secure, may we be happy. And then we conclude with, may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. You can, if you wish, repeat with me or after me, or not, or you can just listen. May I be well, may I be secure, may I be happy. May you be well, may you be secure, may you be happy. May we be well, may we be secure, may we be happy. May all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. And so it is, and so it shall be. And let me get us back into a gallery view so that we can unmute ourselves and say goodnight to each other. So I am going to suggest that you do that, and good night. See you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
We will do
Good
this
night.
again.
How do we make,
Bye.
how do we make a payment?
Oh, so in the chat box, I put in 2 links.
Oh.
One is for a donation, and then the other one is for the survey.
Okay, cool.
Good. Okay, I will talk to you at another point in time. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
I guess you're doing your chat boxes right now. I mean, you're doing your clicking your links right now. If the links don't work, contact me.